Weakness, it's a weight many of us carry, often unseen by others, but felt in every moment. It's the voice in your head whispering, "You're not enough, you're not ready, you're not worthy." This voice, though it feels like a curse, is not a curse at all. It is a doorway, a signal that something inside of you is calling to be transformed. What if I told you that the very weakness you've been dragging through your life is not a mark of failure, but a call to action? That the thing you despise most about yourself is the thing that can lead you to the most powerful version of yourself. This journey isn't just about overcoming weakness. No, we're not here to simply pretend it doesn't exist or hide it behind false bravado. We're here to confront it head-on with the fierce, liberating philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. And by the end of this, I promise you, your understanding of weakness, suffering, and strength will change forever. Nietzsche understood weakness intimately. He lived with it every day of his life. Chronic illness, isolation, personal heartbreak. These were not just challenges he faced, they were the crucibles in which his ideas were forged. In the midst of suffering, Nietzsche discovered something extraordinary. Strength is not born from avoiding pain, but from transforming it. Before we dive deeper into Nietzsche's transformative philosophy, let's set the stage with a hard truth, one that many people find impossible to face. You are responsible for your weakness, not because you chose it, but because you have yet to choose to overcome it. For Nietzsche, weakness wasn't just a personal flaw, it was a denial of the fullness of life itself. Life, as Nietzsche saw it, is raw, chaotic, unpredictable, and often cruel. Yet within this chaos is boundless energy, power, and opportunity. Most people, however, shy away from this rawness. They seek comfort, certainty, safety, and predictability. These things are comforting, yes, but greatness comes from embracing the chaos. It comes from stepping into the unknown, even when it terrifies you. Look at your own life. How many times have you avoided discomfort? How many times have you told yourself, "I'm just not that kind of person," or "That's too hard"? These are not harmless thoughts. These are contracts you've signed with mediocrity. Nietzsche called it the herd mentality, the instinct to fit in, to play nice, to dream quietly, to avoid confrontation, discomfort, and risk. But this, he argued, is what keeps most people small, stuck in lives of quiet desperation. Only a few have the courage to escape the herd and become something more. That something more is what Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the overman or superman. But don't mistake this for an arrogant concept of superiority over others. The overman is not someone better than others. Rather, it's someone who transcends the ordinary, someone who transcends weakness, comfort, and societal norms. The overman is forged through fire, through conscious and willful transformation. And as Nietzsche warned, most people will never achieve this. Why? Because it requires something terrifying. You must kill who you are in order to become who you must be. Let that sink in. You must kill who you are. Not physically, of course, but psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. The version of you that makes excuses, that blames others, that clings to the past, that version of you cannot survive if you are to become strong. The journey to becoming strong isn't easy. It's a death of sorts. You will grieve that version of yourself. You'll mourn your old habits, your old beliefs, your old ways of thinking. It will feel like a small death. But what is reborn from this process is something infinitely more powerful than you've ever known. Nietzsche's own life was a testament to this philosophy. Despite his physical suffering, his isolation, and personal heartache, he created works that have shaken the foundations of modern thought. How did he do it? Because he didn't run from suffering. He transformed it. He used pain as his forge. He believed that pain, properly faced, was not a force to be feared, but a force to be harnessed. So, let's pause for a moment and reflect on this. What if your weakness is not your enemy? What if it's your teacher? What if every insecurity, every failure, every broken part of you is a message pointing you toward the very thing you were born to become? Think about that for a second. That weakness you carry, the one thing you hate about yourself. What if it's the fuel that will propel you to greatness? Nietzsche wasn't just some philosopher sitting in a tower writing abstract thoughts. He lived this philosophy, fully and completely. His suffering was not the end of him. It was the beginning. So, now I ask you, what if your weakness is not your burden? What if it's your path to freedom? You see, the secret is this. Weakness doesn't have to define you. It can be your starting point, your invitation to evolve into something greater. Because here's the paradox. Only when you stop running from your weakness, only when you stop denying it, can you begin the transformation that will turn you into someone unstoppable. Nietzsche's philosophy begins with a hard truth that most people can't face. You are responsible for your weakness. But don't mistake this for an accusation. It's not that you consciously chose to be weak, but rather that you have not yet chosen to overcome it. In fact, Nietzsche believed that weakness isn't a personal flaw, it's a refusal to embrace your potential. It is a rejection of life in its fullest, rawest, most chaotic form. Life, as Nietzsche saw it, is a battle. It is unpredictable, often cruel, and filled with suffering. And yet, in this suffering lies an immense well of untapped strength. To live fully is to confront and embrace that chaos. But the majority of people, as Nietzsche observed, shrink from this chaos. They seek comfort, safety, and security, the easy path. But greatness does not lie in comfort. It lies in the willingness to walk through fire, to confront the unknown. Think about your own life. How many times have you avoided discomfort? How often have you made excuses, telling yourself, "I'm just not that kind of person," or "I'll do it later"? These are not harmless thoughts. Nietzsche would say that every time you give in to these excuses, you are signing a contract with mediocrity. You are choosing to remain weak. And the more you choose this path, the more entrenched you become in your own self-imposed limitations. What Nietzsche proposes is radical. The only way to escape this cycle is to take full responsibility for your weaknesses, to acknowledge them, and to confront them head-on. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about accepting that your weakness is not something to be ashamed of, but something that can be used as a stepping stone toward greater strength. Many people believe that weakness is something that must be hidden or ignored, that it is a source of shame. But Nietzsche saw weakness as a reflection of your current state, not a permanent condition. It is simply a sign that you have not yet transcended. The question becomes, will you remain in this state of weakness, or will you choose to overcome it? To overcome weakness, you must first acknowledge it. This is the first step in Nietzsche's method, radical self-awareness. It's about confronting your limitations honestly, without excuses. It's about taking ownership of your life and your choices, including the ones that have led you to this point. This is a difficult truth to swallow, especially for those who have been conditioned to believe that they are powerless. But Nietzsche believed that everyone has the potential to transcend their weaknesses, if they are willing to face them. The true power comes not from avoiding pain, but from using pain as a catalyst for growth. In the face of your own weakness, you must ask yourself, what part of me is holding me back? What story do I keep telling myself that prevents me from becoming the person I know I can be? Nietzsche believed that this confrontation is not just necessary, it's transformative. When you confront your weakness, you force yourself to see the truth about who you are. And from that truth, you can begin to rebuild yourself. You might not like what you find when you look at yourself with brutal honesty. You may discover habits, beliefs, and behaviors that have been holding you back for years. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay stuck. You can choose to change. You can choose to become something greater. And that choice is the first step toward true freedom. Nietzsche didn't just talk about this transformation, he lived it. He spent his life battling illness, loneliness, and despair. But rather than letting these struggles defeat him, he used them to fuel his philosophical work. He didn't wait for circumstances to improve, nor did he seek comfort. He embraced his suffering and used it as a means of personal growth. In doing so, he became one of the most influential philosophers in history. What does this tell us? It tells us that we, too, have the power to transform our lives, but only if we are willing to take responsibility for our own weaknesses and face them head-on. The next time you feel weak, don't retreat. Don't blame others or your circumstances. Instead, look inward and ask, what is this weakness trying to teach me? Nietzsche's philosophy is one that doesn't shy away from the raw and chaotic aspects of life. In fact, he believed that to truly live, to truly become great, one must not only embrace chaos but seek it out. This is where many of us falter. We crave comfort, we long for security, we dream of a life where everything is predictable, where we know what tomorrow holds. But according to Nietzsche, this very desire for comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort, safety, and certainty are seductive illusions. We are taught from an early age to pursue them, to settle into predictable patterns, to seek security in our jobs, our relationships, and even our beliefs. But Nietzsche saw this as a denial of life's fullest potential. He argued that life, in its most raw form, is chaos, and it is within that chaos that true strength is found. The chaos is unpredictable, yes, but it is filled with boundless energy that can shape us into something greater. Consider this. When was the last time you truly pushed yourself out of your comfort zone? How often do you settle for the easy path because it feels safe? The temptation to stay in the warm embrace of comfort is ever present, but Nietzsche warns us, comfort kills creativity. Comfort kills growth. When we avoid discomfort, we also avoid growth. We avoid the challenges that force us to expand, to evolve, to transcend our old selves. Comfort keeps us in a state of stagnation, while discomfort pushes us to face our weaknesses head-on. Take a moment to think about your life. When was the last time you deliberately sought out something difficult? Something that challenged you to grow, to evolve, to become better than you were yesterday? Nietzsche didn't just advocate for seeking hardship for the sake of suffering. He believed that true greatness lies in the ability to transform hardship into something meaningful, to extract value from pain. This is the concept of amor fati, the love of fate. Nietzsche didn't just believe in accepting whatever life throws at you. He believed in embracing it. He thought that every challenge, every setback, every heartbreak is not a burden to bear, but a lesson to be learned. Instead of running from discomfort, we should face it with open arms, knowing that in the process, we become more resilient, more capable, and more alive. Think about the moments in your life where you've grown the most. Were they the easy moments, the ones where everything went according to plan? Or were they the times when you faced adversity, when life didn't go your way, but you pushed through anyway? These are the moments that shape us, the moments that define our strength. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't about seeking out suffering for suffering's sake. It's about seeking the opportunities for growth that lie hidden within life's chaos. It's about not shrinking back when things get hard, but leaning into the challenge, knowing that on the other side of hardship lies a stronger, wiser, more powerful version of yourself. This doesn't mean that you should purposely make your life miserable or create problems where none exist, but it does mean that when life challenges you, when you face hardship, you don't retreat. Instead, you rise. You use the chaos as your forge, and you become the sculptor of your own destiny. So, let's ask ourselves, what part of your life are you still avoiding? Where are you playing it safe, hiding from discomfort, choosing the easy route? Nietzsche would challenge you to step into the chaos, not recklessly, but with purpose, because it is only by embracing life's unpredictability that we can truly become who we are meant to be. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies a powerful and transformative concept, the Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman. But this is not about superiority in the conventional sense. Nietzsche did not mean a being who is better than others, but someone who has transcended the limitations of the average human being, someone who has risen above mediocrity and embraced their full potential. The Overman is the person who has conquered their weaknesses, their fears, and their comfortable existence. They are individuals who have shattered the boundaries imposed by society, by tradition, and by their own self-imposed limitations. This is not a journey for the faint-hearted. It's for those who are willing to break away from the herd and create their own path, regardless of the cost. Think about the society we live in today. Most people follow the path of least resistance. They conform to societal expectations, chase fleeting pleasures, and live their lives according to the rules set by others. But the Overman is someone who refuses to follow the crowd. Instead, they forge their own way, create their own values, and live with the understanding that the pursuit of greatness requires sacrifice. The Overman, according to Nietzsche, must be forged in the fire of adversity. It is only through overcoming hardships, facing discomfort, and embracing chaos that one can transcend the ordinary. This process of self-overcoming is what Nietzsche called the will to power, the drive not to dominate others, but to master oneself. It is the force that propels us to break free from mediocrity and reach for something greater. In order to become the Overman, you must first recognize that the version of yourself that exists in the present is not enough. You must be willing to challenge your current beliefs, habits, and identities. You must kill the old version of yourself that has been conditioned by society and fear. This does not mean abandoning your humanity. Rather, it is about refining and enhancing it. This process is not about finding external sources of power, such as wealth, fame, or status. The true power lies within. It is the strength that comes from within the individual to create their own meaning, their own purpose, and to live authentically. The overman does not seek validation from others, nor do they seek approval. They seek to be true to themselves, to their own vision of greatness. The overman is not an elitist. They are not someone who views others as inferior. Instead, they are a symbol of what we could all become, if we dared to break free from the chains of conformity. They show us that greatness is not something bestowed upon us by others, but something we must create for ourselves. So, let me ask you, how many times have you let the expectations of others define your life? How many times have you chosen the path of least resistance, the one that keeps you comfortable, rather than the one that challenges you to become more? Nietzsche's overman is a call to action. It is a challenge to break free from mediocrity, to stop living on autopilot, and to start creating a life that is worthy of greatness. It is not about being perfect, but about being relentless in the pursuit of becoming the best version of yourself. No matter how difficult the journey may be, the overman doesn't wait for life to change, they change it. They don't follow the rules, they make their own, and in doing so, they become something extraordinary. The path to greatness is not easy, it requires a sacrifice, and that sacrifice comes in the form of the old self, the version of you that has been molded by comfort, excuses, and fear. Nietzsche believed that in order to achieve true transformation, you must kill who you are, not literally, but metaphorically. You must destroy the version of yourself that holds you back from becoming who you are meant to be. This idea is both liberating and terrifying. To kill who you are means to let go of your old identity, the stories you've told yourself, the beliefs that have shaped you, and the habits that have kept you stuck in mediocrity. It's not easy to let go of the familiar, even when it no longer serves you. In fact, it's incredibly painful. But Nietzsche's philosophy teaches us that in order to grow, we must first face the discomfort of letting go. Consider the way we live today. Most people seek comfort, avoiding difficult emotions and situations. We have built a society that prioritizes security over growth. We live in a world where we are encouraged to maintain the status quo, to fit in, to play it safe. But Nietzsche understood that to truly evolve, you must disrupt this comfort. You must challenge everything about your current life and be willing to let go of the parts of you that are holding you back. This is not an easy process. The person you have become, even with all their flaws and weaknesses, feels familiar and safe. The idea of letting go of that person can feel like a kind of death. But Nietzsche argued that this death is not an end, but a necessary step in the process of becoming. You cannot become someone new without first shedding the old. And yes, it will hurt. But the pain is the price of your evolution. Nietzsche's own life was full of pain and suffering. He faced illness, isolation, and heartbreak. Yet he turned these painful experiences into something powerful. He didn't run from them. He faced them head-on, using them as tools for transformation. This is why his philosophy continues to resonate with so many, because it is not about avoiding pain, but about embracing it as a catalyst for change. Imagine, for a moment, that the person you are right now is holding you back from achieving everything you could be. That version of yourself, with all of their fears, insecurities, and excuses, is the one keeping you from greatness. What if you let go of that version? What if you faced the discomfort of change and stepped into a new version of yourself? Nietzsche believed that transformation requires a radical shift, a complete break from the past. It is not about gradually improving the old self. It is about replacing it with something new. And to do this, you must embrace the discomfort that comes with change. To kill the old self doesn't mean rejecting who you were, but rather accepting that the past version of you is no longer enough. It means acknowledging that you are capable of something greater, and in doing so, you open the door to a new reality. This is the price of transformation, the willingness to let go of who you were to become who you must be. So, let me ask you, what part of yourself do you need to kill in order to grow? What beliefs, habits, or identities are holding you back from becoming the person you were always meant to be? Transformation isn't easy, it's painful. But in that pain lies the potential for greatness. Are you willing to face it? Are you ready to let go of the old you to become something greater? Pain, it's something we all experience in varying forms throughout our lives. Suffering, loss, disappointment, these are inevitable parts of the human experience. And yet, Nietzsche's philosophy tells us something profound. Pain is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced and transformed. For Nietzsche, pain was not a sign of weakness, but a powerful tool for personal growth. Nietzsche himself was no stranger to pain. He battled chronic illness, isolation, and personal heartbreak throughout his life. And yet, these very struggles formed the foundation of his philosophy. He didn't allow his pain to defeat him. Instead, he used it to fuel his creative genius, to shape his mind, and to push him toward greater understanding. In his own words, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." But Nietzsche's belief in the transformative power of pain goes deeper than just surviving hardship. He believed that true strength is forged through suffering, that we can use our pain to sculpt our souls into something more powerful. In fact, he saw suffering not as a punishment, but as an opportunity to create something greater within ourselves. Think about it. When was the last time you faced real hardship? How did it affect you? Most people, when faced with pain, seek to escape it. They numb themselves with distractions, they wallow in self-pity, or they attempt to suppress it. But Nietzsche saw this as a tragic mistake. He believed that by running from pain, we only prolong our suffering. We avoid the lessons it has to teach us. Instead of avoiding pain, Nietzsche suggested we should confront it head-on. We should allow it to shape us, to teach us, and to push us toward greatness. Pain, when faced with courage, has the potential to transform us into something stronger, wiser, and more resilient. This idea isn't easy to grasp, especially in a world that tries to shield us from discomfort. We are constantly told that pain is to be avoided, that it is a sign of failure or weakness. But Nietzsche challenges us to rethink this. He asks us to consider whether it is through our pain that we are most deeply shaped. He urges us to stop seeing suffering as a burden and to start seeing it as a forge, a place where our true strength is created. Take a moment and reflect. What pain have you been running from? What parts of yourself have you tried to numb or ignore because they're too difficult to face? Nietzsche would say that it is in these very areas where your greatest potential lies. The pain you've experienced is not a sign that you are weak. It is a signal that you are alive, that you are growing, and that you have the power to turn that pain into something extraordinary. This isn't to say that pain should be sought out for its own sake. Nietzsche was not advocating for masochism. Rather, he believed that when pain inevitably comes, we should embrace it, learn from it, and allow it to shape us into something more powerful. Think about the last time you faced a challenge, a moment when life seemed to be throwing everything at you. Did you let that pain define you, or did you use it to propel yourself forward? In every moment of suffering, there lies an opportunity to grow stronger, to become the version of yourself that you were always meant to be. Pain, when used correctly, is a powerful tool. It is not the enemy, but a teacher. It is not something to be feared, but something to be transformed. And in that transformation, we become the overman, someone who not only survives suffering but uses it to create strength, wisdom, and greatness. So, I ask you, what pain are you carrying that you have not yet transformed? What part of your suffering can you turn into power? Because, as Nietzsche taught, it is through our pain that we forge our true strength. What if I told you that your greatest weakness is not your enemy, but your most trusted teacher? That every insecurity, every failure, every painful moment is not a sign that you are broken, but a clue pointing toward the very strength that lies dormant within you. Nietzsche believed that our weaknesses are not to be despised or avoided, but to be faced head-on and used as stepping stones on the path to greatness. This is a radical idea, especially in a world that teaches us to hide our weaknesses, to suppress them, or to pretend they don't exist. But Nietzsche understood something that many of us fail to see. It is only by acknowledging and confronting our weaknesses that we can unlock our true potential. When you think of your weaknesses, what comes to mind? Perhaps it's a fear you can't shake, a tendency toward laziness, a lack of confidence, or a past failure that still haunts you. These are the parts of yourself that you may have learned to despise, the parts you may wish would just go away. But what if these very weaknesses hold the key to your transformation? Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to turn this thinking on its head. He suggests that rather than running from our weaknesses, we should use them. He believed that every flaw, every insecurity, every moment of suffering contains within it the potential for growth. The very things we perceive as our greatest burdens are, in fact, the catalysts for our evolution. Think about it for a moment. What if your fear of failure is not a sign that you're weak, but a sign that you care deeply about success? What if your tendency to procrastinate is not laziness, but an indication that you're overwhelmed by the enormity of your potential? What if your insecurities are simply the surface manifestations of a deeper desire to grow and improve? This is the lesson Nietzsche teaches us. Weaknesses, when properly understood and faced, are not limitations. They are the beginning of the journey towards strength. Every time you confront your weakness, you are learning something vital about yourself. You are being given the opportunity to evolve, to adapt, and to become more than you were before. When you see your weaknesses as teachers, the entire landscape of your life changes. No longer are they sources of shame or self-loathing. Instead, they are challenges to be faced and overcome, lessons that will guide you toward your highest potential. It is through overcoming these challenges that we become more than we were. The process is painful, yes, but it is also immensely rewarding. Consider Nietzsche's own life. He was not immune to weakness. In fact, he was deeply familiar with pain, illness, and despair, but he didn't let these experiences defeat him. Instead, he saw them as opportunities for growth. His suffering became the forge in which his philosophy was born. His weakness, when faced head-on, became the very source of his strength. Now, think about your own life. What weaknesses are you carrying right now? What are the parts of yourself that you wish you could hide or erase? Nietzsche would say that it is these very weaknesses that are calling you to grow. They are the challenges that will push you toward greatness if you are brave enough to confront them. The key is not to see weakness as something to be ashamed of, but as an invitation to become stronger. It is only by embracing our weaknesses, by understanding them, and by transforming them into sources of power that we can achieve greatness. So, I ask you, what weakness in your life have you been avoiding? What part of yourself have you been reluctant to face? Because once you confront it, once you use it as fuel for your transformation, you will find that your weakness has already begun to turn into strength. In Nietzsche's world, there is no such thing as bad luck, bad fortune, or bad fate. There is only fate, and it must be embraced. He coined the term amor fati, which translates to love of fate. This philosophy goes beyond simply accepting what happens to you. Nietzsche challenges us to love everything that life throws our way, even the hardest and most painful parts. Amor fati is not about passively accepting your circumstances. It is an active embrace of the totality of life, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Nietzsche believed that true strength comes not from avoiding hardship, but from loving it. It's a radical shift in perspective, one that invites us to see every event in our lives, no matter how painful, as a part of our growth and journey. Imagine, for a moment, the possibility of truly loving everything that has happened to you, the failures, the rejections, the moments of despair, even the heartbreaks. What if every mistake, every disappointment, and every moment of suffering were not seen as obstacles, but as essential parts of your story, your path to greatness? Nietzsche's philosophy of amor fati challenges us to stop seeing suffering as something to be avoided, but rather as something to be integrated into our being. Rather than lamenting the hardships we face, we must embrace them as teachers, as the very raw material from which we forge our strongest selves. This concept may seem counterintuitive. After all, why would we love the pain, the struggle, the suffering that life inevitably throws our way? Why would we choose to love our fate, no matter how difficult it may be? The answer lies in the transformative power of this attitude. When you begin to love your fate, you stop being a victim. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is merely enduring life's challenges. Instead, you become someone who actively chooses to grow from every experience. The love of fate transforms you into someone who is empowered by all of life, not just the good parts, but also the difficult, painful ones. Let's consider how this might look in real life. Imagine that you have just faced a setback. Perhaps a project failed, or a relationship ended. Most people, when confronted with such challenges, react with frustration, anger, or sadness. They see these events as bad things that should have never happened. But with amor fati, you would approach this moment differently. You would ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? Instead of seeing it as a failure, you would recognize it as a vital part of your personal journey, one that will ultimately shape you into a stronger, wiser person. This doesn't mean you should celebrate your suffering for its own sake or indulge in masochism. Nietzsche's love of fate is not about seeking pain, but rather embracing it when it comes, knowing that it is part of the larger process of becoming who you are meant to be. Think about the many moments in your life when you've experienced pain. Could you have embraced them differently? Could you have used those experiences to fuel your growth rather than resent them? Nietzsche asks us to reconsider the way we view hardship, not as a curse but as a blessing in disguise. The more we love our fate, the more we transform our suffering into strength. And with this transformation comes a sense of power. the power to shape our own destiny, to embrace every part of our journey, and to become a force in the world that cannot be stopped. So, I ask you, what would it look like to love your fate? What would it mean to truly embrace every part of your life? The joy and the sorrow, the triumphs and the failures. Because when you begin to love your fate, you will no longer be a victim of your circumstances. You will become the creator of your life, and in that creation, you will find your greatest strength. Nietzsche's philosophy is not just abstract theory. It is a practical method for confronting your weaknesses and transforming your life. At the core of this method is radical self-confrontation, a process of brutally examining yourself, facing your truths, and confronting the uncomfortable parts of your being. It is not easy, but it is essential for anyone who wishes to grow beyond mediocrity. Self-confrontation is the first step toward personal transformation. It's about sitting with yourself, without distractions, and asking the hard questions. What parts of me are making me weak? What beliefs do I cling to that hold me back? What excuses am I making? What fears am I hiding from? This process requires an unwavering commitment to honesty, a willingness to strip away the lies we tell ourselves, and the courage to confront the uncomfortable truths that we often bury deep within. Nietzsche didn't believe in sugarcoating the truth. He believed that only through radical honesty could we truly see who we are and begin the journey of self-overcoming. Imagine sitting alone with your thoughts, no distractions, no external noise, just you and your inner world. What would you find? What parts of yourself have you been avoiding? The truth is, most people run from this kind of confrontation. They fill their lives with distractions, work, social media, relationships, entertainment, anything to avoid facing their inner truth. But Nietzsche would argue that in these distractions lies our greatest weakness. To truly know yourself, you must face your own reflection without fear, without judgment. This is why self-confrontation is so difficult. It forces us to look at our flaws and imperfections, to acknowledge the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden. But this is exactly why it is so necessary. Without self-awareness, without the courage to look at ourselves honestly, we cannot grow. Nietzsche's method of radical self-confrontation involves asking yourself one crucial question: what part of me is holding me back? This is not an easy question to answer. The answers are often uncomfortable, and the truth is painful. But it is in this pain that transformation begins. In his own life, Nietzsche confronted his personal demons head-on. He didn't hide from his suffering or deny the reality of his challenges. He used his pain, his loneliness, and his struggles as the raw material from which he forged his ideas. He believed that by facing our weaknesses directly, we could turn them into sources of strength. This process of self-confrontation also requires us to question our beliefs. Most of us live according to beliefs we have inherited from our families, cultures, or societies. These beliefs shape how we see ourselves and the world, but how many of them are truly our own? Nietzsche challenged us to question everything, to reject borrowed values and create our own. Think about it. How many of the beliefs you hold are truly your own? How many of them were passed down to you without question? Nietzsche would urge you to examine your beliefs closely. Are they serving you, or are they holding you back? To become the overman, you must discard the beliefs that no longer serve your highest purpose and forge new values that are true to you. The challenge of radical self-confrontation is not just intellectual, it is deeply emotional. It is about breaking free from the comfort of self-deception and stepping into the fire of truth. It will hurt, yes, but as Nietzsche taught, it is only through this fire that we are purified. So, I ask you, are you ready to face yourself? Are you prepared to confront your weaknesses, your fears, and your excuses? Are you willing to embrace the discomfort of self-awareness, knowing that in this confrontation lies your greatest potential for growth? Radical self-confrontation is not for the faint of heart. But if you are willing to face yourself honestly, to look into the depths of your being, then you are ready for the most powerful transformation of your life. Nietzsche believed that comfort is the enemy of greatness. While the world around us encourages ease and security, Nietzsche argued that the path to true strength requires voluntary hardship. This concept is not about seeking out suffering for its own sake, but about intentionally choosing challenges that push you beyond your limits and force you to grow. Most people avoid hardship. They seek the softest path, the easiest way to achieve their goals. But Nietzsche understood something that the majority of people fail to see. Comfort does not lead to greatness. Comfort leads to stagnation, mediocrity, and a life lived on autopilot. To truly evolve, to become the overman, you must actively choose discomfort. Consider this. When was the last time you made a conscious decision to put yourself in a difficult situation? Not because it was required of you, but because you knew it would push you to become stronger. Most people avoid such challenges. They wait for the perfect conditions, the perfect moment when everything feels right. But Nietzsche believed that if you wait for the right time, you will never take action. The key is to choose hardship, even when the conditions are far from ideal. This idea is radical in a world that constantly seeks comfort and convenience. Think about how much of your life is designed to keep you comfortable. Your work, your relationships, your daily routines, they are all shaped by the pursuit of ease. But Nietzsche would ask, is this really the life you want? To grow, you must seek out difficulty. This doesn't mean creating chaos or unnecessary suffering, but it does mean stepping outside of your comfort zone. It means waking up earlier than you need to, taking on challenges that make you uncomfortable, and pushing yourself to do things that you normally avoid. These actions are not just symbolic, they are transformative. Nietzsche praised those who embraced hardship as a means of growth. He saw hardship as the crucible in which the strongest souls are forged. The overman is not someone who runs from difficulty. The overman seeks it out, knowing that it is through struggle that they become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Think about this in practical terms. How can you voluntarily introduce hardship into your life? Perhaps it's waking up an hour earlier each day to work on a passion project. Maybe it's pushing yourself to have difficult conversations, to be more honest in your relationships, or to confront your fears head-on. The key is to make these challenges a regular part of your life. The more you embrace difficulty, the more you will transform. Nietzsche's philosophy of voluntary hardship is not about becoming masochistic or seeking pain for the sake of it. It's about understanding that growth and greatness come through resistance. Just like muscles grow stronger when they are stressed, your character and resolve are strengthened when you face challenges. So, I ask you, where in your life are you avoiding difficulty? What challenges have you been putting off because they are uncomfortable or scary? Nietzsche would urge you to step into that discomfort. Choose hardship, embrace the challenge, and in doing so, you will begin to forge a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. One of the most radical aspects of Nietzsche's philosophy is his call for individuals to create their own values. In a world where so many people live by borrowed beliefs and societal expectations, Nietzsche challenges us to question everything, especially the values that we inherit from family, culture, or religion. Most people live according to a set of values that have been handed down to them. These values are often unexamined, accepted without question, and dictate how we live our lives. But Nietzsche believed that these values, whether they come from society, tradition, or religion, are often limiting. They hold us in a state of passivity and conformity, preventing us from reaching our full potential. To truly embrace Nietzsche's philosophy, you must take full responsibility for your life and your actions. This means rejecting the values that have been imposed upon you and creating your own. You must ask yourself, what do I truly believe? What is worth striving for in my life? What values align with the person I am becoming? Creating your own values is not an easy task. It requires deep self-reflection and a willingness to stand apart from the crowd. Most people fear being different, and the idea of creating your own values often feels isolating. It's far easier to follow the herd, to accept the values that society tells us are important, than to forge our own path. But this is the very essence of Nietzsche's concept of the Bermensch, the overman, the one who rises above the ordinary and creates their own way of living. To create your own values, you must first question everything. Think about the values you hold. Are they truly yours, or have they been passed down to you without examination? Are they values that help you grow, or do they keep you stuck in the comfort of conformity? Nietzsche urged us to create our values, not merely accept those that are given to us. This is a terrifying and liberating task. It requires courage to step away from the norms of society, to reject the approval of others, and to create a personal moral code that aligns with your true self. This process is not an intellectual exercise. It is a deeply personal journey. It requires you to face your deepest desires, fears, and beliefs. You must question the very foundations of your identity and rebuild them from the ground up. But the reward for doing this is immense. When you create your own values, you free yourself from the tyranny of others' expectations. You become your own source of meaning, your own compass, and you begin to live a life of authenticity and power. Nietzsche saw this as essential for the overman. someone who has transcended conventional thinking and embraced the chaos of life by creating their own values, regardless of societal pressures. The overman is not someone who follows the rules. They are someone who makes their own, and in doing so, they become a force to be reckoned with, someone who shapes the world rather than being shaped by it. So, I ask you, what values have you inherited without question? What beliefs have you accepted simply because that is what you've been taught to believe? Are these the values you truly want to live by? Or are they holding you back from becoming the person you are meant to be? Now is the time to start creating your own values. Start questioning everything. Start thinking for yourself. And in doing so, you will unlock the power of self-determination, the power to shape your life according to your own vision. One of the most important aspects of Nietzsche's philosophy is the belief that true greatness requires solitude. In a world filled with distractions, noise, and the constant pressure to conform, Nietzsche believed that greatness is found in moments of separation, moments when we step away from the crowd, from societal expectations, and from the influences of others. The overman, the person who has transcended mediocrity, does not seek validation from the masses. Instead, they seek inner truth and personal growth. To do this, Nietzsche argues, one must spend time alone, not loneliness, but purposeful separation from the external world, to connect with the inner self and to find clarity. In solitude, we are forced to confront our true desires, fears, and beliefs. We are no longer distracted by the opinions of others, the constant noise of modern life, or the pressures to fit in. In this space of quiet reflection, we can ask ourselves the hard questions and begin to create the life we truly want to live. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, solitude has become something many people fear. We fill our lives with social media, entertainment, and endless activity, never allowing ourselves the space to be alone with our thoughts. But Nietzsche saw this as a fundamental problem. He believed that without solitude, we cannot hear our own inner voice. Without separation from the noise of the world, we cannot truly be who we are meant to be. Think about it. When was the last time you truly spent time alone, without distractions? When was the last time you allowed yourself to sit quietly with your thoughts, without feeling the need to fill the silence with noise? This is the power of solitude. It is in these moments of silence that we connect with our deepest selves, and it is through this connection that we begin to see the path forward. Solitude also provides the space necessary for creating your own values, which we discussed earlier. In the solitude of your own mind, free from the influence of others, you can begin to question everything, the values you hold, the beliefs you follow, and the life you are creating. It is in this space of separation that you will find the clarity to make decisions that align with your true self. Nietzsche believed that greatness requires this type of solitude. It is not the solitude of a hermit, locked away from the world, but the solitude of someone who has consciously chosen to step away from the distractions of the world in order to focus on their own personal evolution. This kind of solitude is not easy, especially in a world that constantly pushes us toward connection, interaction, and social validation. But Nietzsche would argue that it is precisely in these moments of separation that we discover who we truly are, and what we are truly capable of. So, I ask you, how much of your life is spent in solitude? How much time do you spend alone, reflecting on your life, your goals, and your values? Are you afraid of this solitude, or do you embrace it as a source of power? The overman Nietzsche teaches us is someone who knows the power of solitude. They are someone who can separate themselves from the crowd and listen to their own inner voice. In doing so, they unlock their true potential and create a life that is uniquely their own. One of Nietzsche's most challenging, yet most powerful, thought experiments is the concept of eternal recurrence. It is a test, a question that forces us to examine the very nature of our lives. Nietzsche asks, what if you had to live your exact life over and over again, forever? This idea may seem strange or even unsettling at first, but stay with me. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence is not just about the repetition of life, it is about how we choose to live. If you had to live your life again, exactly as it is, every joy, every sorrow, every success, and every failure, would you welcome that? Or would you resist it, wishing that you could undo the pain, the mistakes, and the regrets? The eternal recurrence forces us to look at our lives not as fleeting moments, but as something eternal, something that will keep repeating itself. It challenges us to ask whether we are living in a way that we would be proud to repeat forever. Imagine for a moment that every action, every decision, Every moment of your life would be lived again and again for all eternity. How would you live differently? Would you make the same choices, follow the same path, or would you change something? The idea of eternal recurrence asks us to live in a way that we would not regret repeating. It calls for us to live with intention, to make every moment meaningful, because each one is not just a passing event but an eternal one. Nietzsche did not present eternal recurrence as a theory meant to be answered definitively. Instead, it is meant as a challenge, a tool to help us evaluate the quality of our lives. If you are not living in a way that you would want to repeat eternally, then it's time to reconsider your choices. The idea of eternal recurrence asks us to live as though every moment matters, as though every action we take has eternal consequences. The real power of this thought experiment lies in its ability to bring our lives into sharp focus. When we realize that we are living not just for today, but for eternity, we begin to understand the weight of our decisions. It is not enough to live for pleasure or comfort. We must live for meaning, for purpose, and for authenticity. Eternal recurrence also calls us to embrace all parts of our lives, the pain, the struggles, and the setbacks, not as burdens, but as essential aspects of who we are. If we can learn to embrace every part of our lives, even the most difficult and painful moments, then we can truly say that we are living in alignment with our highest potential. So, I ask you, if you had to live your life over and over again, would you be proud of how you've lived so far? Are you living in a way that you would want to repeat eternally? Eternal recurrence is not about perfection. It's about responsibility. It's about owning every moment, every decision, and every part of our existence. When we live as if our lives will repeat for eternity, we stop waiting for the perfect time to change. We begin living fully, in the present, knowing that this moment matters as much as any other. One of the most controversial and profound ideas Nietzsche ever introduced was his declaration that God is dead. Now, this phrase is often misunderstood, and many mistakenly take it to mean that Nietzsche was proclaiming atheism or mocking religion. In fact, what Nietzsche was really pointing to was the collapse of the absolute truths that have governed human thought for centuries. He was referring to the erosion of traditional religious, moral, and philosophical systems that had previously provided structure and meaning in people's lives. The death of God, in Nietzsche's view, represents the end of unquestionable, universal values, those truths handed down by religious authorities, governments, and cultural traditions. These truths were once seen as unchanging and absolute, but as science, reason, and individualism grew, they began to lose their power. Nietzsche recognized that once these pillars of absolute truth crumbled, humanity would be faced with an existential crisis. Without a higher power to provide meaning and direction, we would be left with nothing but the abyss. This is where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes both a warning and an opportunity. On one hand, the collapse of these absolute truths leaves a void. In this void, many people experience fear, confusion, and a loss of purpose. Without the guiding hand of religion or tradition, they are left without a compass to direct their lives. But on the other hand, this void presents an unprecedented opportunity, the opportunity to create our own meaning. Nietzsche understood that the death of God could either destroy us or liberate us. For those who are willing to embrace the freedom it offers, it is a chance to take full responsibility for their lives, to create their own values and purposes without relying on external authorities. This freedom is terrifying because it demands that we create meaning from within, not from outside ourselves. But here's the catch. If we fail to embrace this freedom, if we allow ourselves to fall into nihilism and despair, we risk becoming lost in the void. Nietzsche called this nihilism, the belief that life has no inherent meaning. This can lead to a sense of powerlessness, where people either seek to numb themselves through distractions or fall into a kind of moral paralysis, unable to act because they believe there is no ultimate meaning to their actions. Nietzsche's solution to this crisis is not to reject life or abandon hope, but to embrace the responsibility of creating our own meaning. Without the external authority of religion or tradition, it is up to each of us to define what is meaningful and valuable in our lives. This is where the true challenge lies, to live without the crutch of absolute truths, to become the creators of our own values and purposes. In Nietzsche's eyes, the collapse of God and absolute truths does not mark the end of civilization, but rather the beginning of a new era, an era in which individuals are free to forge their own paths and define their own destinies. This is the ultimate expression of human freedom. The question then becomes, Will you take up this challenge, or will you let the absence of external meaning consume you? Nietzsche's call is clear. We must become the authors of our own lives. We cannot rely on old structures, on inherited beliefs, or on the comfort of external authorities to tell us who we are and what we should believe. We must create our own values, based on our own experiences, desires, and understanding. This is the task of the overman, to embrace the death of God, not as a source of despair, but as an opportunity to create meaning in a world that no longer provides it. So, I ask you, how much of your life is shaped by external authorities, by inherited values, or by societal expectations? How much of your identity comes from what others have told you is true? Nietzsche would urge you to question all of it, to reject the easy answers and create your own truth. The death of God has left a void, but it is up to you to fill that void with meaning that is uniquely your own. By now, we've explored Nietzsche's call to embrace pain, create our own values, and face the chaos of life head-on. But there is one final, transformative step that marks the culmination of Nietzsche's philosophy: becoming a force of nature. This is not about gaining power over others or dominating the world around us, but about tapping into the most fundamental, primal force within us, our ability to shape ourselves and the world according to our will. Nietzsche's philosophy is not about creating a life of comfort or avoiding hardship. It's about becoming a living, breathing expression of will. It's about creating yourself through your actions, your choices, and your values. When Nietzsche says we must become a force of nature, he means that we must stop reacting to life and start shaping it ourselves. We must stop being passive observers and start being active creators. A force of nature is not someone who follows trends, who seeks validation from others, or who conforms to the expectations of society. A force of nature is someone who has fully embraced their own power and autonomy, someone who creates their own path regardless of external circumstances. This kind of person is unstoppable, not because they are invulnerable, but because they have mastered themselves. They are no longer slaves to fear, doubt, or the opinions of others. Think about it. What would it look like if you fully embraced your personal power? What would it mean to live without asking for permission, without seeking approval, and without waiting for the right moment? Nietzsche believed that once we let go of our dependence on external validation, we tap into an unstoppable force. The overman, the person who has transcended their weaknesses and embraced their will to power, becomes a force that cannot be ignored. This is where the real challenge lies. We live in a world that trains us to conform, to fit in, and to seek approval. It tells us to play it safe, to avoid risks, and to conform to societal norms. But Nietzsche's call is different. He challenges us to become something extraordinary, something that the world cannot predict, cannot control, and cannot silence. To become a force of nature, we must live authentically, according to our own values, and with the unwavering commitment to our own personal evolution. This means facing every challenge with the mindset that we have the power to shape the outcome. It means embracing the unpredictability of life and using it to our advantage. It means becoming so anchored in our own identity that nothing, not society, not failure, not even fear, can sway us from our path. A force of nature is someone who has outgrown their weaknesses. They are no longer weighed down by insecurity, self-doubt, or the need for external approval. They have transcended these limitations by facing them directly, learning from them, and using them as fuel for growth. They have become creators of their own lives, masters of their own destinies. So, I ask you, what is stopping you from becoming a force of nature? What part of yourself are you still letting fear or doubt control? How much of your life is still being shaped by the expectations of others? Nietzsche's final challenge is this: to live as a force of nature, to become so focused on your own evolution, so committed to your own path, that no external force can derail you, to shape the world, not in the way society expects, but in the way you choose. This is not an easy journey. It will require everything from you: your courage, your will, and your willingness to become something completely new. But the reward is immeasurable. When you become a force of nature, you stop being a passive participant in life. You become the creator of your own reality. You become a living, breathing expression of will. And that, according to Nietzsche, is the highest form of human existence. As we near the conclusion of Nietzsche's journey, we must understand the final step in his philosophy: transforming weakness into strength. This is the culmination of all we've explored: embracing pain, rejecting comfort, creating our own values, and becoming a force of nature. The most profound transformation occurs when we no longer view our weaknesses as obstacles, but as raw material for growth. Nietzsche believed that our weaknesses, insecurities, and struggles are not things to be ashamed of or avoided. They are the building blocks of our evolution. The key is not to fight against them, but to accept them, learn from them, and ultimately transcend them. This is where true strength is born, not from avoiding weakness, but from embracing it and using it as the catalyst for becoming something greater. Think about the moments in your life when you've felt weak. These moments might have been painful, even devastating, but in them lay the seeds of your personal power. Nietzsche teaches us that it is precisely in those moments of weakness that we have the greatest opportunity to evolve. The person who can face their weaknesses with courage and clarity is the one who becomes truly unstoppable. This process of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires constant, relentless self-examination. It requires you to confront your fears, your doubts, and your past failures, and to use them as fuel for growth. It means that, instead of seeing your flaws as signs of inadequacy, you begin to see them as opportunities to learn, to improve, and to evolve into the person you are meant to be. Every time you face your weakness head-on, you grow stronger. Every time you embrace discomfort, chaos, or hardship, you forge the person you are becoming. Nietzsche's philosophy teaches us that there is no such thing as a perfect life. We all face weaknesses and limitations, but it is through facing them directly, through the act of transformation, that we reach our highest potential. This process of self-overcoming is not about perfection. It's about continual growth. Nietzsche did not believe in static identity. He believed in becoming. In the process of constant self-overcoming, the overman is not a finished product. The overman is always evolving, always growing, always pushing beyond their current limitations. You are not a fixed being, you are a work in progress. And the more you embrace this truth, the more powerful you will become. Weakness is not something to be ashamed of, it is something to be transformed. So, I ask you, what weakness are you still allowing to control you? What part of your life are you still hiding from? And how can you use that weakness as the foundation for your strength? The final step in Nietzsche's method is not just to eliminate weakness, but to transcend it. This is the art of becoming who you are meant to be. This is the power of transformation. As we reach the ultimate insight of Nietzsche's philosophy, we arrive at the most powerful and often misunderstood concept, becoming dangerous. This is where everything shifts. Until now, we've explored how to face our weaknesses, embrace hardship, create our own values, and become a force of nature. But Nietzsche's final challenge is to become something far more profound, someone who is not only strong, but dangerous. Now, I know the word dangerous might evoke images of aggression or harm, but Nietzsche's idea of being dangerous is not about harming others or dominating the world around us. It is about becoming so powerful, so centered in your own will and purpose, that the world can no longer control or predict you. It is about becoming uncontainable, someone who is so grounded in their own truth, so sure of their own power, that nothing, no fear, no doubt, no societal expectation, can hold them back. Nietzsche wanted us to become individuals who are unpredictable, not in the sense of erratic behavior, but in the sense of being so firmly anchored in our own beliefs and will that we no longer conform to the expectations of others. In essence, he wanted us to be so powerful that the world would be forced to reckon with us. This idea of being dangerous is rooted in the concept of radical self-reliance. When you no longer seek permission, validation, or approval from others, you become a force that the world cannot predict, control, or influence. You become dangerous because you are untouchable, not because of physical strength, but because of your unwavering commitment to your own vision, your own truth. In today's world, most people are trapped in the cycle of seeking validation. We seek approval from society, from our peers, and even from social media. But Nietzsche challenges us to break free from this cycle. He asks us to stop seeking permission to exist, to stop asking for approval to pursue our dreams, and to stop waiting for the right moment to act. He wants us to act now, to become so centered in our own identity that we no longer need external validation. When you stop asking for permission, when you stop waiting for the right circumstances to change, you become unstoppable. This is what Nietzsche meant by becoming dangerous. It's about creating your own life, your own meaning, and your own values without the need for external approval. It's about stepping into your own power and owning it completely. To become dangerous is to embrace your full potential without hesitation. It's to face the world without fear, without the need for validation, and without any lingering doubts. It is to live with such intensity and conviction that your very presence changes the world around you. Think about the most powerful figures in history, the ones who shaped the world with their ideas and actions. They were dangerous not because they sought power over others, but because they created a reality in which they were free to live according to their own vision. They didn't wait for permission, they didn't ask for validation, and they didn't conform to the norms of society. They became so focused on their own purpose and will that they became forces of nature, untouchable, unpredictable, and transformative. Nietzsche believed that this is what each of us is capable of. If we dare to step into our full potential, the overman is dangerous, not because they seek to dominate others, but because they have the power to shape their own reality and to live according to their own will. They are dangerous because they are free. So, I ask you, are you ready to stop asking for permission? Are you ready to step into your own power and live life on your terms? Are you prepared to become dangerous, not to others, but to your own limitations, to the expectations that hold you back, and to the fear that keeps you small? The final revelation in Nietzsche's philosophy is that true strength comes not from conforming, but from becoming untouchable in your purpose, your values, and your vision. When you become a force that the world cannot predict or contain, you have truly transcended. And in that transcendence, you will discover a power beyond anything you've ever known. With all of the challenges and philosophies we've explored, the most essential and liberating idea in Nietzsche's worldview is this: you are the creator of your own life. The overman, the person who transcends the herd mentality, the weakness, and the chaos, is the person who actively chooses their own path. They do not wait for permission, nor do they wait for the world to become perfect before taking action. They live with intention and power, creating a life that is uniquely their own, free from the expectations of others. To live a life of true authenticity means rejecting the idea that your value is dictated by external sources. In the modern world, we are constantly bombarded with messages about what we should want, how we should behave, and who we should be. Society, culture, and social media push us into predefined boxes, encouraging us to compare ourselves to others, to live according to norms, and to seek approval from external sources. But Nietzsche urges us to stop. He challenges us to create our own path, to live life on our own terms, and to define our own value. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or rejecting relationships. Rather, it means stepping into a life where you actively shape your destiny. You define your purpose, and you align your actions with that purpose. This active creation of life means that no matter the circumstances, no matter the obstacles, you are the one who decides what meaning you will give to each moment. Imagine waking up every day with the clear understanding that you are the author of your story. Each decision, no matter how small, is an opportunity to craft the life you want. You are no longer a passive participant in the world, waiting for things to happen to you. You are the creator of your own destiny, shaping it through the choices you make and the way you choose to engage with the world. Nietzsche's vision for us is a life of continuous becoming. The overman is not a fixed entity. They are a process, a person constantly evolving, growing, and shaping themselves. The world around you will change, but your ability to create your own path, to shape your response to life, will remain your greatest power. This idea of continuous becoming requires that we live with purpose and vision. It is not about being perfect or without flaws. It is about constantly striving to evolve into the best version of yourself, no matter the setbacks, the struggles, or the fears. This is the essence of Nietzsche's will to power, the drive to constantly create, constantly improve, and constantly become the person you are meant to be. Ask yourself, what would it look like to create a life that is completely your own? What choices would you make if you were the sole creator of your existence? Are you living the life you choose, or are you simply reacting to the circumstances around you? Living the life you choose is a commitment to growth, to transformation, and to the pursuit of authenticity. It requires that you reject the easy path, the path of conformity, and the path of seeking approval from others. It demands that you embrace the discomfort, the chaos, and the struggle, knowing that through these challenges, you are creating the life you want. Nietzsche's philosophy does not ask us to wait for some external force to change our lives. It asks us to step into our power, to create our own meaning, and to live with intention. When you do this, when you live with purpose and create a life that is authentically yours, you will find that the world becomes a reflection of the strength and will that you have cultivated within yourself. So, I ask you, what life do you choose to create today? What decisions will you make to ensure that you are the author of your own story? Will you let the world dictate your path, or will you choose to live fully, with intention and authenticity, every single day? This is the final step. To create the life you choose, to live with purpose, and to never stop becoming. The Overman is not a destination, it is a continuous journey. And it is a journey that you have the power to shape every moment of every day.